The drop punt is one of the many and major skills in the AFL. It is used to pass the ball at long and short distances. It is also used for going for goal either on the run or as a set shot. Steph, who will be the learner for the duration of the 4-week training program, will be taught, guided and coached about the drop punt. She is not familiar with this skill as her past sports have been netball, putting her in the cognitive stage at the start of this training program. There is negative transfer as no netball skills transfer to the drop punt. The drop punt is mainly a gross motor skill as it uses the larger muscle groups, but it also can be slightly a fine motor skill as we have our hand grip on the ball. The drop punt is a discrete skill as it has an obvious beginning and end. It is classified as a closed motor skill as the athlete initiates the skill. For example, having the time to go back on a set shot and kick for goal. However, some aspects of the game, like pressure from the opposition by tackling the player, can make it an open skill. Classifying the drop punt using the Gentile two-dimensional taxonomy, we can see that the regulatory conditions present are the ball, field dimensions, posts, rules of the game, surface, and other player involvement. Inter-trial variability exists as some of the regulatory conditions could change from one trial to another. Body orientation is in motion as to perform the skill you are required body transplantation. Object manipulation is important as the football needs to change position to successfully perform the skill. It is important to break down a skill into key aspects. This can then lead into teaching points. For the drop punt, the key aspects are the run-up, the ball drop and hand grip, the leg swing before the impact of foot to ball, and the follow-through aiming for the target.
Feedback within the first 2 weeks of the training program will need to be augmented feedback, which involves concurrent and terminal feedback, which will be given during and after the performance. Knowledge of results, which will be information given about the outcome of the performance. Knowledge of performance refers to actual movement patterns obtained through the kick. This will also be used to help the athlete focus on areas that they are having difficulties in.
Qualitative testing is information that is not in numerical form. For qualitative testing, we have performed 5 tests where we look at the participants' performance, looking closely at their technique based on our key aspects. We have put in a scale from 1 to 5 and we have rated Steph's performance after the skill was performed. Quantitative testing is descriptive data. For our quantitative test, we will see how many times the performer can correctly kick the ball to a person standing at a cone. And as a progression assessment, how many times they can correctly kick the ball to a target that is on the run. We have chosen to do both quantitative and qualitative testing in the pre and post testing, as then we can clearly see the improvement both visually and statistically.
Types of practice. Throughout our training program, we will be using distributed practice, which simply means shorter sessions but more regular throughout the training program.
We have chosen to do both whole and part practice as our participant is a beginner in this sport and is unsure of the skill. We have chosen to break down the skill in both week 1 and week 2, which allows the participant to understand the basics of the skill. In week 3 and 4, we will practice in whole practice to ensure the skill is being developed and performs correctly.
In week 1 of our training program, we focused on hand grip and ball drop. We first started by holding the ball singly and double-handed grip, familiarising novice with ball shape by bouncing the ball stationary with hand grips.
Verbal instructions and cues are one of the many ways you can communicate on how to perform a certain skill. It is important not to overload instructions to a beginner learner. Accurate, concise phrases are used when using verbal cues. When implementing cues, we need to know the skill really well. Breaking it down to the key aspects can also help. We use verbal cues early on in the program. The verbal cues used for the drop punt kick is drop, swing, kick, and point.
In the second week of our training program, we focused on the leg swing and kick. Practicing leg swing and kick with the round ball to start with and then progressing to a football. We started by kicking 10 metres for a period of time, then increased to 20 metres.
Motivation can be achieved through progression of skills performed in the training program. In the early stages of the program, we have set achievable measures to ensure the participant can successfully complete this task and gain motivation to perform a drop punt kick by the end of week 2. Intrinsic motivation is what will be used by the participant, which comes from within the learner to work hard and achieve the drop punt skill.
In week 3 of the training program, we focused on putting all the aspects together, starting with stationary kicking, then progressing to kicking to a target 10 metres away, then 20 metres away.
Intrinsic motivation for Steph during this week was high due to her wanting to complete the task to the best of her ability.
Week 4, we focused on progression. We started by kicking on the run, hitting the targets, and set shots. We then progressed to having the ball on the ground. Then Steph would run, pick it up, and kick it to a person. Then we did target moving.
Expected progression of the learner. Over the 4-week training program, we predict that Steph will be able to successfully perform the correct AFL drop punt skill. Due to Steph being in the cognitive phase of learning a new skill, we hope to see her progress after every training session while focusing on skills that need more help.
We are doing a retention test a week after training is completed. We do a retention test to see how much the performer has retained. Retention tests are usually performed a week or so after testing and training is completed. Transfer testing is a means to assess the adaptability aspect of performance changes related to learning. For our transfer test, the performer will be kicking a goal with added pressure from crowd noise. This can see how the performer adapts to different situations. This will be performed as a quantitative test.